Elon Musk recently was asked if he could ask a superintelligent machine any question, what would it be? And he said that he would ask the superintelligent machine what lies outside of the simulation. And by simulation, he meant what we think of as reality. And there's no doubt we do live in a simulation. The real question is, what type of simulation do we live in? So I'm going to talk about two and the consequences of each. The first type of reality is what we might call stemming from the normal science. And so you gather up 100 books on perception, philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, cognitive science, and read them from cover to cover, and they all tell the same story. The brain is the ultimate introvert. It never sees the light of day. It sits tucked away in the skull. It never sees reality. The only way it knows reality is through the senses. And so even my voice right now, what I'm doing is creating ripples in the air. Your ears are translating those ripples into neural language that the brain can understand. And all the senses come together, transforming that neural language into what the brain will create as a three-dimensional simulation of reality. But here's the thing. That simulation is actually pretty close to real reality. And so in that sense, it's a little shocking, but it's something we can kind of get over. The second type of simulation I find to be a little bit more interesting, and it's the one I think the mystics are referring to. It's more like a video game, because in a video game, there's no reason why the simulation in a video game has to have any similarity to real reality. So kind of like the movie The Matrix, you might be able to bend the laws of physics or even break them. And I think this kind of simulation is more interesting because it reflects the game-like nature of reality itself. Consider for a moment that what we consider as reality might be something like a simulated escape room. So we take consciousness and we bury it in this bioelectrical meat suit, and we throw in a mind that thinks and buries the true nature of consciousness. And our goal is to try to get out. And there have been mystics who have left clues for us over the centuries. And that I find is a kind of a more interesting type of simulation. But what's the practical consequences? I mean, why does this matter to you if you're watching this? Well, because this type of simulation can help us with some real practical problems. If you can remember the movie The Matrix, the main character Neo, he would get out of a tough spot. He was going to take a very adventurous elevator ride, and he had to remember that there is no spoon, which is the way he would put that this is all simulation, so don't worry about it. And so I was recently doing some cave explorations, and it turns out that the mind up in this skull is a bit claustrophobic. And I was a couple stories down under the earth in very tight spots. And I found it extremely helpful to remember that there is no spoon, that this is a simulation. And that's something you might want to take into the simulation. Just a reminder, is this real? How do I know this is real? Particularly when something is really bothering you, because that's the thing. How do we know that these things that irritate us are actually real, or are they just part of some simulation? But to come back to Elon Musk's question, what lies beyond the simulation? I think we have a really good definitive answer for this. It's consciousness, simple consciousness with no mind, with no thinking, simple, pure awareness. And there's one reason for this, because if you were to simulate consciousness, it would be consciousness. So just a few thoughts on Sunday to consider and question whether something is real the next time you find yourself in a tough spot.